Good morning. I'm Catherine Franz, Executive Director of Michigan State's Axia Institute, and I'd like to welcome you to this first of its kind forum, Revolutionizing Patient Safety, Securing the Medication Supply Chain. My team and I are excited to host this conference, and thanks to the generous donations of our sponsors, we're glad to bring this event to you free of charge. The Axia Institute, created by gifts from Dow Corning, Herbert H. and Grace A. Dow Foundation, and others, partners with industry to solve grand challenges in supply chain and conducts research across a number of areas, including the important area of medical supply chain. In 1999, the Institute of Medicine published its watershed report, To Err is Human, drawing attention to the many thousands of accidental yet preventable deaths in hospitals due to medical errors. In a 20-year update of that report, published in Health Affairs, David Bates and Hardeep Singh cite many examples of inventions that are showing promise to improve patient safety. Among the most important is the automated tracing and tracking of medications. Encouragingly, the healthcare system has begun to draw on scientific approaches to safety from areas outside of traditional medicine. This is the reason we're here today, to explore new technologies capable of dramatically improving patient safety. The Axia Institute is uniquely positioned to bring you this forum and thoroughly committed to assemble the right stakeholders to help solve this complex issue. Based on our expert opinion, the pharma value chain is one of the greatest challenges facing society today. As you may or may not know, the Drug Supply Chain Security Act, DSCSA, was enacted to improve serialization of medications across the pharma industry, from raw materials to the ultimate consumer by 2023. But why wait until 2023 when the need for patient safety is now? You'll learn from this conference how we can work together to transform the pharma value chain using existing technologies already in practice today, providing full visibility and transparency along the entire medication supply chain, allowing track and trace of ingredients through all layers of production and distribution, removing human error, improving operational efficiencies and safety, and eliminating risks of counterfeit, diversion, and adulteration. I hope you'll enjoy the quality of today's event. My esteemed colleague, Dr. Bill Donahue, Professor of Communication Arts and Sciences, will serve as moderator. I'd now like to introduce our keynote speaker, Christopher Jerry. Christopher Jerry lost his beautiful 2-year-old daughter, Emily, after a fatal medication error in March 2006. After the tragic loss, he created the Emily Jerry Foundation to increase awareness of patient safety-related issues associated with preventable medical error. Recent estimates identify medical errors as the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States. And over the past decade, Mr. Jerry has had the privilege of collaborating with many medical experts to focus on the underlying core systems, processes, and protocols to help patients safe and assure the best possible outcomes. In closing, in doing so, he's worked tirelessly with some of the brightest minds in healthcare to identify technology and implement best practices to minimize the human error component in the clinical setting. Through what Mr. Jerry now considers his life's work, his primary objective is to stop tragedies before they occur, ultimately saving as many lives as possible from preventable medical error. He is a relentless patient safety and clinician advocate who spreads a message of hope, forgiveness, compassion, and collaboration by turning an unimaginable tragedy into inspiring change in honor of his daughter, Emily. With that, Christopher Jerry.
Thank you very much for this the very kind introduction, Catherine. It is wonderful. This first video that I'm going to share with all of you really conveys my true sentiments as to what happened that horrible day back in 2006 when Emily's IV medication error occurred. It was professionally produced for a pediatric adverse drug event panel discussion that I was on out in California. And I like to start many of my lectures and presentations with it. From that, we'll begin the presentation. My daughter, Emily Christine Jerry, was born February 24th of 2004. She was playing in the backyard with her brother and sister, Nate and Catherine. And I noticed that every so often, Emily would stop and grab her side and wince. After witnessing this occur 3 or 4 times during the course of the afternoon, neither one of us as parents really thought much of it, but we knew that we needed to take her in to have her checked out. We took Emily to a leading pediatric facility in Cleveland, Ohio, and they had decided to run Emily through the MRI scanner. And there was a grapefruit-sized mass in Emily's abdomen. They prepared us to expect the worst. They set our expectations, expect that your little girl is going to lose a significant amount of weight during the course of treatment. She's going to lose her beautiful blonde ringlets. She'd be vomiting, most likely, and things of that nature. She didn't start losing those beautiful blonde ringlets of hair until January of 2006. But I knew in the back of my mind that quite possibly the tumor wasn't responding to that course of treatment. So the decision was made to run Emily through the MRI scanner again. Emily's tumor had completely disappeared. There wasn't even any residual scar tissue remaining in her abdomen that they had anticipated. A miracle had occurred. And those are the caregiver's words, not mine. At this point, they recommend one final 3-day round of chemotherapy, just to make sure that there wasn't any residual cancer cells remaining. I arrived about 10 or 15 minutes after they had started Emily's IV that day. And when I walked into Emily's treatment room, Emily was unconscious. I was thinking to myself, how could this have happened? I mean, she was just fine. What was found to have happened was the clinical pharmacy that day ran out of standard bags of saline with 0.9% sodium chloride. And so this young pharmacy technician decided to take an empty compounding bag, and she saw 3 vials of what's called hypertonic saline, which is 23.4% in concentration. She filled this empty compounding bag with those 3 vials of hypertonic saline and used that as the base solution for Emily's chemotherapy that day. She thought she was doing the right thing. That Wednesday was when my wife and I had to make the most difficult decision of our lives, which was after multiple EEGs showed little to no brain activity. The decision was made to take Emily off of life support. That day is still a blur to me emotionally. I was packing some of Emily's things from her treatment room into the back of our SUV, which happened to be parked on the top floor of the parking garage at the facility that day. And I saw the car seat in the back of that SUV, and I was thinking, maybe I should just take a flying leap off this parking garage and go and join my little girl. I never had those kind of thoughts or feelings before in my life. And it was almost at that moment that I decided to embark on this career. I don't want to say that it was chosen, that I chose it. I believe it was chosen for me.
and work so passionately on through my advocacy efforts to try to find or be an active part of the solution to preventable medical errors. And so in striving to be part of the solution, I've been working very hard through the programming of the Emily Jerry Foundation. I believe that we can get to 0 deaths in the United States from preventable medical errors, because they're just that, preventable.